All right, friends, welcome. This is Full Moon Eclipse Community Circle Edition, Lunar Eclipse, like this. And we often group in astrology the series of eclipses that happen in their cycles. We'll call it eclipse season, which is kind of funny. I kind of expect more when something's a season, but honestly, two eclipses should be enough. Every once in a while, we get a third like that. That's not this cycle. This cycle, we get two eclipses, pretty big eclipses, and eclipses will affect the globe, right? Even if it's not visible in your area. Um, and when we're thinking about that visibility in areas, it's in the Jyotish, in the South Asian astrology. Eclipses are malefic, and so the light, it's hard, it's a contradiction to say the light emitted from the eclipse, because the whole point of an eclipse is one of the luminaries is being covered up. That's why it's the drama. You can imagine for our ancestors of like what is happening. Um, so we have one luminary, the sun, right? And the moon is the sun's reflection, right? So if sun is the soul, then moon is the mind, right? The reflection of the soul. And so moon is fast moving, so's our mind. Also, moon and mind and emotions and mood also very quick changing. So the moon changes signs every 2 days, and the sun changes signs once a month. Mhm. And so eclipse is when between the interrelationship of sun, moon, and earth, somebody's crossing through, and we're getting the shading, right? But that's still considered a light, but a malefic light. There's an image that I saw of the last big solar eclipse that shined all type of down on North America. And it was taken from space, from the space station. And it was a perfect example of this malefic light or malefic influence, where you've got the blue, and the swirly white clouds, and then this just black light on North America. I was like, exactly. So the ancients did not go outside either during the lunar eclipse or the solar eclipse, because they're like, don't bathe in that light, bathe in the light of the sun. And that's the life-giving light, and this is the death-giving light. But in a spiritual context, we need both. We need the illuminating light of the source, the divine, the universal, the elevated, the ascended. Yes, like the goal is to merge with that. But you can't do that without playing games of darkness, because we have to see through the veil of illusion. And so we have these characters, the north and south nodes of the moon, Rahu Ketu, and that's in the storytelling who cuts off the light, the dragon that eats the sun, the dragon that eats the moon, like this. So, for example, I'm in a place right now, I'm on the African continent, and so the eclipse, the shining of the malefic influence, it's not on this land. That doesn't mean there's not effect or affect. It just means that, like, the karma of that land, those countries, those people aren't getting the direct effect. We're getting indirect, but affect nonetheless. So nobody skips out. It's just when that eclipse is happening, I don't even know if the moon is still visible from where I am. But if you are in North America, starting from the evening of the March 13th I think starting from about 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, if we're gonna go with Pacific time, that's when we're starting with the beginning of the eclipse, the peak of the eclipse, and the thereafter. For us, like over here in Africa or in Europe, like that, it's actually like 8:30, 7:30, 8:30 in the morning on the 14th. So that means that we're enjoying this like minimum 2 days of, well, I don't know, what are you enjoying slash experiencing? I'm in a concentrated environment, like an ashram environment, so I'm watching the patterns move quickly amongst the people. Very negative. Like a lot of complaining, irritation. And so that's why I was like, yeah, what is the nakshatra all this is going down? And like, where are we playing at this full moon? We were just enjoying at the last moon juncture this very Piscean, watery, ruled by Jupiter. At least the sign is ruled by Jupiter. The lunar mansions will have their specific rulers, but oh, we're at spiritual completion. We're at the end of the whole syllabus. We're in the deep creativity in the waters. And other, yeah, no, we're in Leo. Ruled by the sun. We're in the fire, we're the activity. We say this each time because we need the reminder each time that so what house in your chart is Leo? That's what you're going to look for. So if you read it as an astrologer's readings, like, oh, and for Aries and for Taurus, it's because that's the house that Leo is in your chart. And what are those themes? For example, I'm a Taurus rising. This is in Leo, which is in my fourth house. And the fourth house is happiness, comfort, mother, um, cars, and home. So like real estate could come here as well. Um, those kind of big things. Those are the big ones. Happiness, mother, home, cars can be there. Um, and I think I said comfort like this. So that's exciting. Yeah. And it's eclipse. It's full moon. So it's also stirring, right? Full moon is like completion energy. We started at the new moon. We're moving through a cycle. This is the apex. And that's where we get our, lunacy vibes from of it's literally in the nerves. We are like maximum either nothing, right? Like there are tides of prana in the body. So we're like maximum feelings, maximum intuition, maximum transformation and alchemy. Some of this like feminine principle, this feminine Shakti principle, So if you take interesting transformations, think werewolf, there's an alchemical transformation. Oh, and you're out on the game, on the hunt, whatever that is, right? So, full moon is the fullness of it all. And we're bringing in eclipse. Eclipse acts like scissors, but it's funny because you can clip in and you can clip out. So, if there is something that is leaving you, let it go. Oh, but what if this is landing in my seventh house, relationships, partnerships? What if this is landing in my 10th house, career? Yes. It could feel really close, central, essential. Like, well, I can't, or I won't, I don't want to. And so that's why these influences are so deeply spiritual. If it's being clipped out, you don't need it. But you might have a whole big story about the thing. And really, what you're caught up in is the story, not actually the thing itself. So that might be a helpful examination of if something is leaving you, that you're like, no, that job can't leave me, that relationship can't leave me, that car can't leave me. I had a car clipped out. Oh, it was painful. Happened back in November. And I was like, this is Eclipse. Now, the crazy thing about eclipses is they have this giant window. So you've got a few days on either side. You've also got 1 month on either side. And then some of the really significant ones can be like 6 months on either side. So, for example, I bought a car and the car hard died. Like it cannot be brought back from the dead. And it was a really nice car. It was beautiful. It was a used car. And it was just simply luck of the draw. Like it's the thing that you don't want to have happen when you buy a used car, that the engine blows. It's everybody's used car nightmare. Well, I had it, right? I was like, no, not me. I'm lucky. I'm blessed. Look at this nice car. I'm gonna leave my mom. This car is gonna be great, super affordable. It's all nice on the inside, white leather. Like I was loving this car. This car died, and I had only been 2 months into paying the loan. There's the loan, there's the repairs that were made leading up to its death. Oh, and then there was a 1 month of rental car so that I could keep working while I figured out what the hell to do with old car and get it sold for like scraps, just junk it, you know? And so the price tag in the end is like $16,000 later. When we bought the car, they gave us these little two stuffed animals, a little lion and a little elephant with a t-shirt of the dealership. Yo, we're traveling and in the suitcases, everything is prime real estate. I have those two stuffed animals with me. And every night my son like sleeps with them, and every night I'm like, where are they? Because each of those is worth $8,000. That is all I have to show for this car. This is the emoji. Oh, this is definitely crying emoji. Are you laughing? Are you crying? It's both. So bad. When it hit, when the news hit, when the reality hit, I was like, oh my, are you serious right now? It wouldn't shock me if I did a homework in my own astrological chart and found a direct connection to this eclipse. Fourth house, cars. Because when I meditated on it, I said, universe, why so cruel? What did your girl do to deserve such a cruel lesson? And they were like, that car would have been a problem for you later. That car needed to get clipped out for whatever, like for the things to come. That was like the message. For the things to come, that car would have been a problem. They were pointing towards like an administrative problem. And I was just like, so that was helpful? And the reply was like, get over it. And I said, well, then I guess we're going to work hard and we'll be paying off this loan along the way for the next 5 years for no reason whatsoever. And it was just like, or so you think, right? Or so you write the story that it is that way. Maybe 10 years from now, I'll be able to look back and be like, oh, this led to this, led to this, led to this. Also, equally possible, I will not ever know why the moment happened. But when I think about the themes and where this eclipse is landing in the chart and what all of that means, the symbolism, isn't that interesting? I guess we can link this to a very important principle that time is not linear. The imperialist capitalist design has made us think time is linear, and you wake up, the alarm, the bells, the factory, the bells in the school, the dirt, 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 everything, dirt, dirt, mer, mer. You have to be on time. This is the concept of time, but if we could release, if we could liberate ourselves from that concept that linear time only exists because we wrote that story. we would see that time functions non-linearly. And this eclipses are really this like cyclic kind of magic of the cosmos for honestly spiritual reveal. And so that's what you're supposed to do during eclipses. You're supposed to meditate, pray, be in the liminal, do oracle. It's in between spaces. Who knows what we could like find in the in betweens, right? Um, for very powerful and direct affect eclipses. Sorry, the tarot's just playing with me. I'll explain it after. Yeah. For the like when it's like full on influence, like it is gazing down on your land, kind of thing. We might even fast during that time. It's not, it's actually practical first, spiritual second. On the practical end, that malefic light dampens the digestive fire. So when you eat during a direct affect eclipse, you can get epic indigestion. The light, our inner light, I'm kind of pointing to the digestive light, solar plexus, navel region, but literally our digestive agni, our digestive fire is directly linked to the power of the sun. So if the sun's power cuts out because of eclipse, then also your digestive fire dampens down. We're just really talking about like a 4 hour window. That's not really a big deal. Um, so we want to focus on the spiritual because in the veil thinning, in the illusion lifting, you could have insight. You could have clear sight. It's like this. So Ketu, the south node of the moon, can be seen as, an extreme malefic, but Ketu is one of the most important allies in spiritual cultivation. Like this. And this is a Ketu influenced eclipse. So the sun is with Ketu. So this one's a spiritual one. Let's go. Examination of the ego. Yes. So, of course, there's other things in the mix. Remember, the original 7 planets that our ancestors could see with the naked eye end at Saturn. So you got everybody up until Saturn. Sun, Moon, Earth, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Rahu, Ketu. That's how we get our 9 entities in the system. In that South Asian view, there were prophecies of 3 future planets to be discovered. So you have Vedic, Jyotish, South Asian astrologers who incorporate Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and you have ones that are traditionalists. They're like, nope, they're just the 9. We're good with the 9. I definitely like including the 3 outer planets because when we want to look at the masses, at the collective, that is who we look at. We look to because they're slower moving and they really show us and indicate us the transformation and movement in the collective. It doesn't happen overnight. So, super side note number 1, all this political hubbub right now, all this madness, you know, it's not just the United States. There's definitely several other places on the globe that are engaging in the same authoritarian, nationalist, white supremacist madness. And Is this like a quick phase? No. And by the way, if you're clocking the linear time on this, this really started in the pandemic, we can see. The shifts with governments, authoritarian, who was voted in, and everything from like Poland, Belarus, Brazil, more than just the top dogs, the big bullies. So look, we're in a long-term thing. We're in a Pluto in Aquarius, many years thing. We're in a Neptune in Pisces. Ooh, and Pisces is, we'll get to that because Pisces apparently is the place to be right now. Well, we have a stellium building, six of the nine possibilities, plus Neptune. You know, well, I think Neptune's included in that. So like six, seven planets are all stacking in Pisces. So it just means like the party's in Pisces right now. A lot going on, a lot and then we got to examine those interactions like that. Maybe we'll look back around to that thing though. So the outer planets, Neptune is in Pisces, and then there's Uranus. And Uranus is in the mix of this moon because of who's with who right now. And Saturn is in this mix at the full moon, and Saturn and Uranus. Saturn is aspecting Uranus. So what does that mean? Uranus is at the tail end of sidereal Aries, actually in my nakshatra. This is very fun. And what's Uranus? Uranus does 7-year transits in a sign, and Uranus is the planet of revolution, sudden change. Can be some aspects of innovation. Like that. Neptune is more of our technology innovation in the collective planet. And Pluto? Well, Pluto is secrets, deep government, intelligence, CIA, MI5, KGB vibes, deep state, also draconian, so like control the masses kind of stuff. And who was partying at the pandemic? Pluto and Saturn. Right, so you got the sudden contraction, you got the like governments controlling all that, like, you have to get the vaccine kind of vibe. You can't travel, da 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 da. Pluto. Pluto's not like bad. Something has to represent this aspect of our life, society, and humanity, and Pluto's it. And so back to Uranus, though. Sudden change. So wait a second. That's feeling kind of double trouble. We got eclipse that could be sudden change. We got Uranus that can be sudden change. So you have to look at your birth chart. Where is Aries? And Uranus is right around the corner. So like the incense is like coming right in. Like and Uranus is about to shift into sidereal Taurus. So you got to look at your birth chart and be like, what do I got? Do you have any planets there? Are those what's happening? What house is that? For me, it's going from 12th house to first house. And then Uranus like came from Aries into Taurus. Like 6 years, Uranus in sidereal Taurus. So for somebody like me, that's my first house. Also, my Venus is in there, so we're gonna have like huge development. There's no point of hanging on to anything at this point in time like that. Really, it'll be about like, which is actually the card that I pulled for the eclipse. Why I giggled. So I pulled this card specifically for the eclipse, the 8 of discs. I'm using the Mother Piece deck, if you're wondering what this is. And the Eight of Discs is just like, we just, we do work. Just, they're all the ladies here. They're doing different earthy work. One's weaving, one's sewing, one's braiding, one's making bread, one's, pounding something, one is, like this. We're doing work. We're, what's the daily? What are the needs, the simplified needs? But it's eight. It's pretty full, and they are doing it together. Now, what's funny is right at the start of the circle, I pulled this card for myself, and then I pulled a card for the moon, and I pulled the Eight of Swords straight up and down. So, what the Eight of Swords is about is um, mental struggle. See, this person is like, who do I fight? I'm gonna fight the wall. Like, is that really the best idea when you've got this exit? Like, how do I get out of the mental trap that I've built for myself? I fight the wall. Well, what the hell sense does that make? There's a ladder right there, but this person doesn't see it. Now, this card was totally reversed. Also, interestingly, both cards were eights, right? So we've got this filling towards nine, which is completion. This is very full. This is very active. So this is the moon, and then the eclipse is stay the course. Do your work. What are you supposed to be working on right now? Dreaming, healing, resting, world building, meaning dreaming the future. And maybe you've identified a skill you're building, skills acquisition. That's it for right now. It's not more glamorous than that. So that's the Eight of Discs. What are you doing? You dreaming? You healing? You resting? Which one? Might feel like, well, that's stupid and escapist. It's not. The eights are also a bit still the mental sphere. How you're applying the resources or how you're not applying the resources. How you're creating stucks for yourself or getting yourself out of the stucks. Like this. Now, so the mental game is reversed. What I feel like this means for this moon is we can be helped by the eclipse right now out of our mental constructs. The ones that we have built for ourselves and that we're fighting against. That this construct is reversed. So we're winning the game and we're being helped by the eclipse. We're being helped by Uranus. Sudden change and transformation, simplifying one's life, these literally the physical objects that you have, how you're showing up for it, the balance of weave of material and spiritual that you're designing for yourself, the simplifying of your relationships, the power of no. And when you say yes, there's so much work we could be doing right now. The message in that Eight of Discs is keep it to the essentials. So then we can infer what this isn't is like the time for all the frivolous. The embellishment, the bedazzling. No, it's not that. We're in essentials. But we didn't hear there's no room for beauty. There's no room for art and aesthetic. But that's not the message. There's absolutely room for beauty, for the restfulness. Literally, I took a 2-hour nap before we hopped on this thing. And I was just like, ah, I feel I am now present in the thing. And I step outside, I see all the crazy, there's all the crazy, and just, I will just eat my early dinner and we get to come into the refuge together. And that will be so nice. Just let everybody else go crazy. It's not your responsibility at this time. Your responsibility, again, is the dreaming and the healing and the resting and the world building and the skills acquisition. Your efforts can be about your very small scale. I'm talking 3 to 4 people. Small scale projects of mutual aid, small scale group visioning. That's that world building, small scale. And I didn't say problem solving. How are we going to do this? How are we going to fight back? Advice thought bubble? If things, people, organizations, and systems look like they are imploding, take a big step back. Grab your popcorn, your nice cup of tea. Watch it happen, right? This isn't the moment where we intercede and involve ourselves at macro scale. But if there is something at micro scale, for example, in my state, not that I'm there, but it affects me. In my state in the United States, there are some politicians in the state legislature that are trying to change the rules for access to homeschooling. We show up for such things, right? We organize in small community, we share information, we get the whole network lit up the day that you need to send in your witness slip, the day that the thing is being put in front of the thing, when to call the legislator and when not to. How, like, let's all get on the page because that is affecting our ability to educate our children in the way that we want to. And that's really part of some macro agenda to do what the hell ever they're doing with the education department in the United States. It's really not even clear. Super side note, thought bubble, as an educator and a homeschooler, and I have also taught in the homeschool community for like 15 years. So I'm very familiar with this and all the different kinds of homeschooling that over in the last Trump administration, what they started stress testing was the defunding of public education from the federal level. So that means pushing the funding stress to the state and then repurposing those monies mainly for weapons production because that's what sells. So that's really what that game is about. And creating a voucher system so then wealthy families can have a discounted access to the private schools that they already can afford. So it really was just like, yeah, honestly, let's just stop on this, like, let's educate everyone and equal access to education. And we're just going to do an every family for themselves model. You'll do your best, you know? And they don't really care that everyone has access to education, which is the main enabler of upward social mobility. They're not interested in that continuing because it's much easier if you have a larger ignorant worker base. Curiously, they're not doing this in the same way in England. What they did instead in the UK was to de-incentivize increasing your income. So if you are like low income, you actually get help from the government and they prefer you to stay at a low income bracket. But if you happen to be trying to do some upward mobility thing and you find yourself in the middle, you will be heavily penalized with taxes. So what were they effectively doing? This is your Brexit shit. What were they effectively doing? Send immigrant population out, stop trading as a bloc within EU, push social classes down through this excessive taxation so that you literally push people back into low worker class because they won't have a choice. They will go back to agrarian work. They will go back to construction because they'll have to. I saw that stuff 2016, 2017, 2018 when I was hanging out in England. I said, that's some evil shit, y'all. Damn. You know, it's just same shit, different day, right? And so over in America, they can't do it quite like that, you know? And so, yeah, so we're seeing the reduction of those disability benefits, any of those benefits, because they have to force people back into work in the low cleaning hotel rooms and construction and so on and so forth. So look, the message on all of this is don't wait for the government to provide you with anything. We start with small scale mutual aid, models of community care. What are these ladies in this car doing? The basics. There's clothing, there's medicine, there's food, there's education, there's beauty, there's wellness, harmony with the earth, right? The division of the resources. That's what we have to be envisioning and skill building towards right now. This is the last call. You will either be prepared for when the systems no longer provide you with anything, or you will not be prepared. I don't know what that looks like for those that are not prepared. I'm not going to go down some, anarchist sci-fi, movie kind of thing, but I mean, humans, like, it's a little bit ouch. I mean, I'm here training martial arts for a reason, you know, whether that's just like the physical fitness or the know-how, or protection or self-defense or whatever aspect of it is. But I heard the message loud and clear. So that's what I'm doing, finding that balance. I need this body to be able to respond and me not kill myself through my anxiety and stress, which was the earlier construct and the earlier story. You know, so if you're attending to your health, if you're focused on your family and meditation, if you are cleaning and organizing, decluttering, if you're bringing in building strength, these are all yeses. This is not selfish activity. This is not avoidance. This is exactly the thing for right now. So that's on that kind of bigger collective level and what we can be doing to stay busy with our hands during absolute WTF and maintaining a specific amount of alertness and awareness towards what is happening so that if a moment of responsiveness is called for, we are responsive like this. But just shouting, in the streets and this thing, that thing, is it doing anything? You need to ask yourself, is that labor doing anything? Now, sometimes our protest is about collective grieving. That's doing something. Sometimes our protest, that shouting in the street, is about something therapeutic. So I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying, ask yourself daily about your output, about where you're showing up, where your advocacy needs to be. Because yes, one day might come that it's your turn to go in the street for protest. Absolutely. Safely, with the knowledge of how to do that safely. All right, let's bring it back to the moon. So this moon, we've got this influence from Saturn. Saturn is about to change signs at the end of the month, March 29th, when we get the solar eclipse. That one is a whammy. This one has its intensities, that's to be expected. The 29th is a proper whammy, for sure. Saturn's going to be changing. We'll probably talk more about it in that next circle, but Saturn's going to be changing from, we've been 5 years in the 2 Saturn ruled signs. So Saturn has been like, you get on task. Saturn's been like, I am feeling myself. Right? And then, it's kind of nice. Saturn's going to come into Pisces. And Saturn doesn't hate Pisces. It's not an enemy sign. And so something's gonna kind of shift there, except the other 6 celestials that are in there. So it's crowded. And they're all doing their own thing. Mercury's in there. Fast moving planet, communication, technology, travel, electronics. Bam! I think it's the 15th to April 7th. Mercury's going to retrograde. So now we got haywire Mercury. Who else is in there? Venus, also retrograde. And technically, now Venus and Mercury will have something called a planetary war. Venus will win, like this, but Venus is moving backwards. So, particularly the financials, the global financials, haywire. And Venus is kind of fighting with Mercury. So, haywire is amplified. All right. So Saturn like busts in the party, and like a cold air comes in. Because for a hot second, Venus up in Pisces, exalted. It was an excellent party, maybe even an orgy or something, And then like Mercury showed up. Mercury's like, I am freaky dicky. Like Mercury is non-binary. Mercury's like, I swing all the direction, And so, woo, and then the door, and Rahu's in there, and so it's kind of like, it's a lot of like up material, people might be imbibing some special substances. I'm feeling like MDMA, like they're really like getting in the feels and the vibes, a lot of passion, energy, and the door opened, and the cold air blew in and all the candles blew out, and they're like, party's over. So that's the end of the month. Saturn rolls up hard, you know, and but Saturn's like ready to party in Saturn's way, which is like loosening one button. That's it. That's all. Not two, not three, not like everything's ready to go. No, just one. Been hard work in the last 5 years. Like kick back. But Saturn's kickback is barely like a barely there. So Neptune in that mix also. Ooh, Neptune in Pisces. Something's happening spiritually. Something's happening artistically in the collective. So don't give up on artists right now. Like if you can help an artist out, we need our artists. Right? So make your art, keep making your art for art's sake. If you can support an artist, that's a nice thing also. But we need our artists. Our artists are our dreamers and world builders. They're the ones that have never let the light diminish in terms of the dreaming and world building. They don't do so well in the physical, material, generative end of things. So help an artist out. That's good advice too. So like maybe that's somewhere you donate, right? Because donation is a very powerful remedy, right? Usually we donate based on what needs remedy in our own chart, like this, but just coming through, help out an artist organization, like help out somebody who's trying to go to art school, just see your touch points, see how that can be. So it's a party up in Pisces, and you should look at what house Pisces is in your birth chart because Saturn's coming to town for the next 2.5 years there. And you may be starting a new and interesting shift. It could be the end of a Saturn return, it could be the beginning of one. Could be something really significant, like Saturn in the 10th house, or something about career and this kind of thing. Could be like for myself, starting a Saresati, which is a 7-year period where Saturn is in the house before your natal moon, the house of your moon, and the one after. It's a kind of can be a very intense period of mental stirring and frankly speaking, mental disturbance. Unless you have befriended Saturn and then you're so used to Saturn's influence, which I am, I'm not worried. Everywhere I look in my chart is Saturn, so there you go. You know, but this is a 2.5 year cycle. Also, you could go back and reflect, like, where was Saturn the last 2.5 years? Could you correlate with something intense and contractive where you're just like, man, everything was going one way, but the last 2.5 years. Anybody who ever says that in a conversation, like 9 times out of 10, Saturn. If they said 2 years, 2.5 years, and you know where you are in the cycle of the Saturn transits, and that could just be a like, give it a few months. Don't give up yet. Give it a few months. Because when Saturn's gaze leaves that sign, it truly leaves that sign. And there is relief. But what did you learn? Because Saturn is the planet of karma. What was activated? What completed? What cleansed? What did you learn about yourself? Very important to learn Saturn's lessons. That. So we'll see over the next 2.5 years, starting in April, just what we're gonna get with Saturn and with Saturn in Pisces. So this moon, Saturn from the last degree of sidereal Aquarius is aspecting Uranus. And then the sun and moon mix, and we come to the eclipse part. So I think last little section here, let's check in on where this moon is happening. What's going to be kind of vibing in your mind. And what we're talking about is Uttara Falguni. This is in the sign of Leo, which is ruled by the sun. It has one part of this nakshatra in Leo and 3 parts in Virgo. We are in the last part that's in the Leo. And looks like the first quarter of this asterism is ruled by the sun. No, ruled by Mercury. No, we'll get to that. Leo is a sign of immense activity. So like this is my child's first house. And he had a fever yesterday. I was like, of course you have a fever. And everybody here was like, oh no, no. They're like, dose paracetamol, this, that. I was like, absolutely not. My threshold is 102.5. That's when I dose you because that's just like a really uncomfortable fever. And you just want comfort. But no, I'm super hippie mom. I got all these Chinese herbs. He had all the oils, he had all the things. I said, let this karma clear, whatever this is. You're coming into your eclipse in your first house. Let's see. And of course, this morning, fine. Everything cleared and took a shower. We were good to go. So the asterism itself is ruled by the sun. So pretty sun vibes. The sun is transiting with Saturn right now. That's why we got that like Saturn Uranus aspect thing with this moon. And Saturn is combust because Saturn is really close to the sun right now. So we got a big strong sun. Remember, this moon is because the moon is in Leo. The primary motivation here is liberation, moksha. Its basic attribute is tamas, inertia. Okay, blah, blah, blah. And Aryaman, a Vedic deity renowned for his leadership, is the presiding deity. So, as I edit a little here, this asterism and the one before it have this symbol of 4 legs of a cot. Okay, so you go to India and you see these cots everywhere. Like it's a bed frame with 4 legs, and then it'll actually be like fiber woven into the bed part thing. Kind of fun to nap on, not like the most fun thing to sleep on because it's not very like supportive mattress vibes, but nice for a nap. Um, Falguni as a representative of the creative energy bestowed on the individual soul. The four legs of the cot represent the lower quaternity, what a word, of the human being, consisting of the physical sheath, the etheric double, which provides the channel for the flow of vital energy, the astral sheath, which radiates and responds to emotional vibrations, and the mental sheath, which enables the individual to think, the koshas, the physical, energetic, mental, and intellectual koshas. That's the four legs of the cot. So there's something multidimensional here. This quaternity, totally putting that word in my vocabulary, is also represented by the four heads of Brahma, the four dimensions of space, and the four Vedas. These aspects of cosmic evolution provide the arena in which the individual acts and the vehicle through which the soul can express itself. The Falgunis represent the unity existing between the various capabilities of the human individual, which during the course of their evolution are brought into fruition. Uttara Falguni, this moon, this nakshatra, provides the basic power, the inner urge, the restless energy which can concretize under favorable circumstances. In order to attain this state, there must be many disturbances. Uttara Falguni presided over by Aryaman, renowned for his fights and leadership, shows the courage and endurance that descends on seasoned fighters who are confident of their strength, the righteousness of their mission, and the final victorious outcome of their efforts. Uttara Falguni is the asterism which enables the individual soul to appear with all its capabilities developed as a result of fighting his way, fighting their way through the realm of matter. It is an asterism of ambition, difficulties, and righteous struggle. The four legs of a bed, the symbol of the asterism, symbolizes the number four and the need for rest. The four directions of space are indicated here. Within this parameter, the entire universe is enclosed and the four natural forces operate. Uttara Falguni, in its basic energy, is a passive magnetic field wherein the individual soul has the scope in which to operate. The first quarter of the asterism within Leo is ruled by Jupiter. Okay, finally, I'm like waiting to hear who rules the nakshatra that we're experiencing. Jupiter. Yay! A benefic. Honestly, Jupiter is saving the day. So that stellium, those six planets that are all like, is the party over? Not yet. You get 2 more weeks of it's that part of the party where it's a little sloppy. Venus retrograde, Mars retrograde, it's like 2 to 4 in the morning. I don't know. You know, me, I always leave the party at like midnight. I'm like, this is when it's safest. I'm out. Right? And so once the party's getting a little shaky, but it's still a party. Like people are still having fun, the beats are still good and stuff like that. And then, we said Saturn's gonna show up and there you go. Pisces is ruled by Jupiter. That is the saving benefic of the whole show for the next 2 months. So here's this little also, like Jupiter is coming in at this moon. Like there's always something fun, exciting, and benefic happening too. So yay, Jupiter. Okay, the solar influence, which enables the divine spark to consolidate, receives favorable conditions for protection and expansion by Jupiter. The four directions, or the entire universe, depending on planetary dispositions, the person under the first, no, yeah. So we don't experience restrictions here. There's a perfect security and immense opportunity for growth and expansion. So that's part of this moon. I'm skipping over the last three quarters, blah, blah, blah. The vastness of space causes great bewilderment for the individual who is not interested in playing an active role in the universal unfoldment. The great loneliness, which often arises when the moon is in this asterism, is mainly due to the exposure of the human individual with all their limitations to the vastness of the universe and its manifold inner depths. Such persons like to stand alone and live in isolation. So let's say this, you're born under this. Now we're talking about those things. Da, do, da. Uttara Falguni is the star wherein the safety of their inner qualities. So this moon, eight of discs, it's there's actions we're supposed to be doing. It's not a passive time. There's actions. Such activities should not be merely impulsive actions. Mhm. The Martian approach to life is alien in this asterism. What is required here is well-directed effort as if one is engaged on a battlefield and required to have a clear idea of the goal and a good strategy for its achievement. We have totally been talking about this. All right, we're just confirming everything. Right? Uttara Falguni has the quality of making a person ambitious, especially when they begin to achieve and feel secure. The vastness of the realm of operation creates dangers in the absence of ethical preparations and spiritual discipline. The danger of meddling with black magic may arise under this impulse. If the individual is turned outward, their ambition and certainty of themselves may take them to great heights, but they will need well-directed efforts. It's eight of discs, hands down. So the rest of the adventure about this moon is TBD. We're going to have to see what you experience, what comes up, right? But look, we do this preparation, we make these spaces, we call ourselves into community, we have these regular rhythms, we build our rhythmic practices, we do all of this in preparation for moments such as this. We can say, hey, here's the themes. Here's what's building, but we actually don't know what is going to happen. And honestly, all the speculative, so kind of a lot of what people use astrology for, especially mundane astrology, the astrology of the everyday, oh, we're going to predict this election, we're going to predict this outcome, we're going to predict what's happening in this, this game, this war, this thing, that thing. Maybe that's what's going to happen because we're always in a flow and adaptation in the universe. It's always moving, changing, and morphing. We do our preparatory work so that we can be present in these moments with easefulness, even if the car gets clipped out or something else gets clipped out, or the super fun of something getting clipped in. Who knows? I'll be really excited to hear about it. So that's the download, and we can take a breath and a pause and hear from each other, about